Well, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, my friend's mother was good enough to give me some seeds. These are pomegranate seeds, and they have 2 packets of these. These are Japanese persimmons, and that's a fir, which I believe is a pine tree, and then of course just another pomegranate. Here we have cherry seeds, so some cherry trees would be lovely. I've got quite a bit of organic soil still that has to be used. I am a bit miffed that I'm probably going to be having quite a hectic time of using all of these things, as my kitchen is going to be torn out, as is my hallway, and be completely rebuilt in the next coming weeks. So it really complicates life, especially at a time like this with all of the craziness going on out there, but you know, that is life, isn't it? There's some elderberry and mulberry saplings. Ooh, getting some water to myself. So, I'm showing these because, I do like to keep the audience up to date about my garden situation. I have some fat banana peppers back there. They haven't turned yellow yet, but they are a good 6 to 8 inches. And my tomatoes and things are coming in. I'll probably actually make a video about that. But the thing about all this planting and stuff is, man, it might become almost a necessity. Just looking at the grim economic situation, maybe things will turn around, because there's often people that make very dire predictions and then they don't come to complete fruition. But at the same time, we are dealing with an unprecedented kind of economic situation where we were having economic problems despite whatever advances Mr. Trump had been making. And then we had this shutdown. And the thing with this is, like, as I was reading in the article, a very good observation. You can't just turn the economy on and off. It doesn't have a switch. It's this delicate array of interlocking parts that goes all askew and a tumble if even one of them gets knocked out of the way. So let's go ahead and read through this article, because that's really all with the social things that I had to do today that I've had time for. I imagine that all of y'all are also, or a good portion of you that are in the United States, are observing Memorial Day. I think some of my subscribers and people happen to be British. I'm not sure what the situation for y'all is, but yeah. Anywho, let us go to this article by Mike Whitney from Un's Review, where I get a lot of my stuff. Because I like that website because they have different perspectives. They have super liberal, crazy people. They got commies. They got kind of fashy people, and they got, tried and true Americana people. So you kind of get an idea of where everybody is coming from. And it's important to understand people's ideas, even people's ideas with whom you disagree strongly. Anyhow, this article is called "The Lockdown Has Turned America into a Despotic, Cash-Strapped Basket Case." Pretty strong. Pretty strong title. And it starts, which is what I call mud eyes. Mud eye? I got mud eyes. Yeah, despite appearances, my eyes are actually not brown. But not to say that people with brown eyes have mud eyes, but my friend's dad used to always say, you're so full of shit, your eyes should be brown. Anyhow, and when we look back on this in 2 years' time, from the ruins of our economy and the ruins of our liberty, we will want to see some kind of justice, that the people who made this decision should pay a penalty for what they've done. And I don't necessarily know if they should pay a penalty, because they might have legitimately thought that what they were doing was the correct thing. But there is definitely that sentiment that can be felt. I mean, when you've been hurried and scurried about and things have been blown out of proportion, even if it is for your own good or in the seeking of your own good, however mistaken legitimately it may be, however of a legitimate mistake it may have been, it doesn't sit well. Anyhow, economic activity across the country has collapsed. GDP is shrinking at the fastest pace on record, and the economic data is worse than any time in history. Again, those are very strong statements, and I don't have the backing to really research them, but, you have this article, and you can all look at it and examine it for yourself. I'll link to it. Every sector of the economy is contradicting, and every economic indicator is pointing down. According to economist Nouriel Roubini, the country is headed towards a decade of depression and debt. And that is probably an understatement. See, that's why these seeds, I'm like, am I also going to have to learn to sew my own clothes and go full Amish? What prompted our leaders to follow the path of China? Were they bullied into it by Dr. Fauci and the vaccine Gestapo? Or are they simply reacting to the sudden rise in COVID cases that skyrocketed overnight? I don't know what they mean by the vaccine Gestapo, but apparently, there's some kind of drive to make vaccines mandatory. And the thing of it is with the COVID vaccine, it's going to be highly experimental. And yeah, the thing of it is when you come out with a new product and you introduce it to the population, making it mandatory is kind of a scary thing because, individuals all react differently, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. Whatever the reason might be, the country is now headed for either a short but severe U-shaped recession or excruciating and protracted 1930s type slump. If you notice a bit of jocularity in my voice, if that's even a word, that's because, I've been eating lots of good food. I had a lot of good beers. This is very heavy subject matter, but because of my, personal physical state right now, I can't really make it match the seriousness of this. And if I tried, it would look a little bit odd. So you're just going to have to bear with that kind of weird jibing between the subject matter and my, kind of happy-go-lucky pace here. But yeah, small and mid-sized businesses are folding by the thousands. The states are drowning in red ink, and more people are currently unemployed than any time in the country's 244-year history. I've been hearing a lot about that, so I'm pretty sure this is true and scary as hell. The lockdown has effectively obliterated the economy and left the country in ruins. Here's some background from an article at Yahoo Finance. I didn't even know Yahoo was still around. Permanent job losses are likely to be a feature of the eventual U.S. recovery, according to the University of Chicago research, which estimates that 42% of recently unemployed workers will not return to their jobs amid the profound shock stemming from the coronavirus lockdowns. Now, that's screwed up. Does that mean that it's because of these businesses are being completely put out of business, so those jobs are literally not there until kind of a similar sector thing comes along to replace it? Permanent job losses are likely to be a feature of the eventual U.S. recovery. Yeah, the pandemic has taken a brutal toll on the world's largest economy, by which I think they mean the United States, with at least 36 million people thrown out of work over the last 2 months. The lockdowns have cratered activity in an economy that consists of 70% consumer spending, while undoing all of the jobs created since the Great Recession ended. Yeah, you see that? That 70% consumer spending, that's the thing. We've outsourced to China all of our industries in China and such places. We don't output very much. We do have kind of an agricultural output in a way, but most of the economic activity stems from people going out and buying stuff and going to restaurants. And that's the thing that was basically the hardest hit. It will likely take a number of years for the labor market to recover from its pandemic-induced meltdown. Researchers extrapolated their findings that over 100,000 restaurants are expected to be permanently shuttered in the near term. Yikes. Some employers will shift resources to other roles, while many laid-off workers may have to find new positions or careers. That's not going to be good for society, for people's mental health, for cohesion. Major reallocation shock from coronavirus will see 42% of lost jobs evaporate. Study. That's the link to the Yahoo Finance article. The American people have yet to grasp the magnitude of the devastation caused by the lockdown, but soon it will be the only topic of conversation. Let's see if that bears out. I wonder. If it does get this bad, it probably will be like, holy shit, we really shot ourselves in the foot. Most people left their jobs thinking they would return to them in a matter of weeks. They never imagined that a policy blunder would put the economy into a vicious death spiral that would terminate their livelihoods, dampen their prospects for the future, and reduce them to hopelessness and destitution. That's real grim. That's like Dickensian level shit right there. They never thought that such a nightmare was possible, especially since they were just following the orders of their governors and the affable Dr. Fauci. You never trust a friggin' really just nice guy. I don't know, that's the thing about Fauci. I looked at him and I'm like, oh man, he just seems so wholesome. It's just something about this that doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. It's like people that don't curse or that don't drink. I'm always a little bit suspicious. They trusted these people. They put their lives in their hands and they were misled, duped into believing that these experts knew what they were doing when all along they were making it up on the fly. Now look, I mean, sometimes you have to bring in experts to make stuff up on the fly. And he put experts in quotation marks, which, I mean, Dr. Fauci probably is an expert, but that doesn't mean he's going to be correct, because experts disagree about shit all the time. That's why these kind of policy decisions seemed really, really bizarre to me, because they're based on something that's a novel coronavirus, which means that we're not really sure of what it is. So to take these like huge, sweeping, drastic global steps, where we see the fact that they didn't know, like, first, don't wear a mask, then wear a mask. First, surfaces are these highly transmissible areas. Now they're not. I mean, that's the normal progress of science. But you see, it had to happen as we took like these major steps. It didn't we didn't take the time to learn about the virus and then start taking steps as we learned these facts. We just went ahead and took it, and then let our discoveries kind of then put a little bit of a control on the craziness that we were wreaking policy-wise. But it just seems like an ass-backward way of doing things, if that makes sense. Doctors at the John Moya. I gotta go back. Sorry. Now we're all going to pay for the mistakes for which they alone are responsible. This is from ABC7 News, so some local station from somewhere. Doctors at John Weir Medical Center in Walnut Creek say they have seen more deaths by suicide during this quarantine period than deaths from COVID-19 virus. The head of the trauma in the department believes... Okay, that was a weird sentence. I mean, that's literally what they wrote. The head of the trauma in the department. I guess the head of trauma in the department would make more sense. Anyway, believes mental health is suffering so much, it is time to end the shelter-in-place order. We've never seen numbers like this in such a short period of time, he said. I mean, we've seen a year's worth of suicide attempts in the last 4 weeks. Yeah, I mean, when you isolate people and when they feel useless, that's the thing that I read in an article a while back. That when people feel that they're not contributing to solving a problem, or that they're no longer like... a source of some kind of value for their family members or their community, which is what happens when people lose their jobs and their livelihood and their day-to-day routines. I'm kind of immune to that because I'm a fucking like artist type, and I've always found ways to help other people. But when you follow that normal path for a long time and then it just gets taken away from you, and you don't really have any kind of entrepreneurial ways of handling things, like subroutines, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's still a bad way of describing it, but I think y'all know what I'm getting at. It's really not good for your mental health. Casey Hansen has worked as a trauma nurse at John Moyer Medical Center in Walnut Creek for almost 33 years. She's worried because not only are they seeing more suicide attempts, she says they're not able to save as many patients as usual, probably due to the fact that there's more of these, and that on top of that they have these crazy strictures around this coronavirus. Like, my granddad had an incident where he was like weaving in and out of consciousness, and he's had a couple of strokes. So I'm like, immediately, after about 5 minutes of tests and things, call 911, hey, it's the infectious group, I don't know, this is too weird, send an ambulance. I run over there to the hospital. There's these people en masse standing out front, and I kind of walk around from the side because I parked further away so I wouldn't get in people's way. And they kind of looked at me askance, like, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm like, I'm looking for my granddad. Where is he? They wouldn't let me in the building. The whole thing was this crazy process again, I left the way that I came, and this guy's like, hey, where are you going? It's like, I'm not going to try to sneak into the damn hospital. I'm just going to the parking lot over there so I don't inconvenience the people that have these legitimate crazy emergencies going on that I see over here. Y'all are out here in tents and hazmat suits. Come on. I don't fucking know, but it's a fucking clusterfuck out there. Anyhow, what I have seen recently, I've never seen before, Hansen said. I've never seen so much intentional injury. So I suppose that people are like really fucking themselves up with these suicide attempts. The trauma team is speaking out because they want the community to be aware, for people to reach out and support each other, and for those who are suffering to know they can get help. Suicides on the rise amid stay-at-home order, Bay Area medical professionals say. ABC News 7. That's some troubling shit that I believe the likes of Peter Hitchens and other people have been warning about. I mean, Dr. Ron Paul was talking about that for a while now. Here's more from an article at the Washington Examiner. A study published in early May suggested that the coronavirus could lead to at least 75,000 deaths directly brought on by anxiety from virus, job loss, addiction to alcohol, and drugs. Yeah, like, the thing about this is, like, liquor stores are open, but other places aren't. I think like gyms and things. It's like, okay, I guess. churches are closed, but liquor stores are open. I don't know. Another study conducted by Just Facts. I mean, like, the reason I'm going and, like, pausing here is there's going to be a bunch of assholes out there. Well, the liquor store, you just go in and you buy your alcohol and then you're not, like, in close proximity and blah. Yeah, but you can arrange your gym to not be in close proximity to people. You can wipe equipment down. And just based on the numbers that we're seeing, it's not this crazy catastrophic thing in terms of, like, infection. And the people that get infected, the ones that are adversely affected, happen to be older. And those people shouldn't be going to those places that much anyway. I mean, there's also, there's just churches. I mean, in church, you can space people apart. And if you have a bunch of people running to liquor stores to self-medicate, that's going to compound problems economically also. I mean, this is kind of a, strange little area. I just wanted to make it known that I'm not so stupid that I don't see the difference between a liquor store and a church. Because I know there's people that are going to be like, oh, this guy's dumb. No, I'm not. If you're going to be so selective about what you allow, it's got to make a little bit more sense. Because if you're allowing people into a grocery store, but you're not allowing a person into a church, I don't see how that makes any sense. All at the same time as keeping liquor stores open. I mean, are they essential? To me, they are. Please, by all means, keep them open. But how healthy is that? How much health was I going to promote? Anyhow, sorry, that was a long aside. Another study conducted by Just Facts around the same time computed a broad array of scientific data showing that stress is one of the deadliest health hazards in the world, and estimating that the coronavirus lockdown will destroy 7 times as many years of human life than strict lockdowns can save. Now, see, the stress thing is strange to me because I watched a bullshit episode on stress, and stress can actually be a good thing, in my opinion. Like, for instance, I feel the stress to create these videos on a regular basis, so I stop sucking at making these videos. But I suppose when you have the stress of, like, trying to provide for your family and you can't, there's no food on the table, you can't afford to go to the doctor, or if you need to go to the doctor, there's no room at the inn because everybody's panicking about this coronavirus and there's all those strictures that I've already mentioned. That's a different kind of stress that compounds and complicates life in so many different ways that it leaves open, these places where bad behaviors like recklessness, doctors misdiagnosing things, and then alcoholism and stuff fall in. Earlier this week, more than 600 doctors signed their names to a letter to President Trump referring to the continued lockdown as a mass casualty event and urging him to do what he can to ensure they come to an end. Now, about those 600 doctors, somebody will obviously look it up and be like, well, those were doctors gathered by some kind of conservative think tank, which I'm pretty sure did happen. But the thing about it is like, there's green think tanks that coordinate scientists to make to promote a certain left-leaning idea of how environmental policy should work. So you're always going to have interest groups funding people. It's just the way it is. That doesn't necessarily mean the data is wrong. Their impartiality is not necessarily compromised by getting funding from somebody. It is something that you should be suspicious of, though. I mean, like, I'm always promoting a skeptical mindset, but here, 600 doctors, they know that they're going to be heavily scrutinized for what they're going to say, so I don't see exactly, despite their funding sources, why that would compromise them. But anyway, let's read what they said. Lockdown is a mass casualty event and urging him to do what he can to ensure they come to an end. By late March, more people had died in just one Tennessee county from suicide than had died in the entire state directly from the virus. And then there's California doctors say they've seen more deaths from suicide than coronavirus since lockdown. And then it goes into kind of explaining why, more of a background of why these suicides happen under lockdown. So the lockdown is a mass casualty incident. Of course it is. What else would you call it? People are locked in their homes indefinitely while the predatory media does everything in its power to terrorize them with one appalling horror story after the other. Did anyone consider this grim scenario before the lockdowns were imposed? Did anyone think that perhaps fragile people that are cut off from the world, their friends, and their families might become so depressed that they'd take their own lives? Of course, none of this matters to the media that measures success in terms of ratings, not the number of people they've killed, with their relentless fear-mongering. For that, they accept no responsibility at all. Here's more. Of course they don't. I mean, they're there as a business entity, and in their mind, they're probably doing a good thing by fear-mongering because we've got to stop, we've got to flatten the curve, etc. Because they find some kind of like a narrative that they can spin that they think is the right thing, and then they double down on it. They don't, see these other angles. They're like, nope, this is kind of the establishment line. That's probably the safest bet, and we're going to keep on pushing this as doggedly as possible without doing a journalistic duty and reporting on all of the various things that could potentially be wrong with this given hypothesis or explanation for a series of events. It's just the way that the media does things. They're a corporation. It's like the safest bet for them is what they're going to take. It's not even necessarily like about ratings. It's about covering their own ass and also getting ratings. That is part of it. I mean, it's really easy to just be like, oh, come, get your latest Corona news updates from us. You don't want to die. You want to be in the know. Researchers warn that socially isolated people are over 40% more likely to suffer a heart attack, stroke, or other major cardiovascular event. Moreover, the socially isolated are nearly 50% more likely to die from any cause. I mean, if nobody's there to see you slip and fall, you're fucked. The study was conducted by Dr. Janine Groenewald and Professor Derek M. Herman from the University Hospital in Essen, Germany. They analyzed data on 4,316 people, average age 59 years old, who had been recruited for research between 2000 and 2003. We have known for some time that feeling lonely or lacking contact with close friends and family can have an impact on your physical health. Dr. Groenewald explains in a release, what this study tells us is that having strong social relationships is of high importance for your heart health, and similar to the role of classical protective factors such as having a healthy blood pressure, acceptable cholesterol levels, and a normal weight. We don't understand yet why people who are socially isolated have such poor health outcomes, but this is obviously a worrying finding, particularly during these times of prolonged social distancing, Dr. Groenewald says. Social isolation increases risk of heart attack, stroke, and amplifies death from all causes, study finds. Yeah, so I can kind of give some ideas on why, because we're social animals. We're meant to interact. There's something very important about the element of human touch and physical presence and the way that our facial expressions and moods feed into each other. I mean, if you take a kid and you isolate him and he grows up, he's not going to be able to speak. His brain function is going to be gone. It's just going to be kind of a zombie. And the thing of it is that there's this myth of us as kind of having all our gear intact on birth, and that we're these islands. We're not islands. We're comprised of interactions. We are microorganisms in the macroorganism called humanity. And then there's different organizational levels of that, from your friends to your community to your state to your town to your state, on up to nation states, and then the world community. So yeah, I mean, if you break the chain of that, there's certain variations within individuals, obviously, but it's not going to be healthy for you, because people's heart rhythms and things sync up with each other. Women's periods sync up with each other. It's a very social species. It's just the way we're wired. Repeat, we don't understand why people who are socially isolated have such poor health outcomes. Yes, we do. It's because they're desperately lonely and cut off from normal human-to-human contact. That, in turn, affects their overall health and well-being. Of course, if it was up to the malevolent Dr. Fauci, we'd never even shake hands again. Fauci would like to repeal 5,000 years of normal social interaction and remake the world according to his own ghoulish specifications. Unfortunately, we are now seeing the blowback from that delusional worldview in the form of growing mental health problems, depression, anxiety, and suicide. Should we tally the suicides alongside the COVID deaths to see whether Fauci's strategy is working or not, or should we simply ignore the horrible human costs of this twisted lockdown experiment? Someday the American people will demand an accounting for the last 10 weeks, but we're not there just yet. Here's more from Bloomberg News. Retail landlords are sending out thousands of default notices to tenants, a situation that could tip already ailing retailers into bankruptcy or total collapse. There's another suicide risk going bankrupt, and we have these stores and things that employ lots of people not able to pay their rent. That is not a good sign for the economy, for your community. The crime is going to go up. I mean, this is just horrible. Department stores, restaurants, apparel merchants, specialty chains have been getting the notices of property owners who've gone unpaid for as long as 3 months lose patience, according to people with knowledge of the matter in court filings. The default letters from landlords are flying out the door, said Andy Grazer, co-president of A&G Real Estate Partners, whose firm works with retailers and other commercial tenants. It's creating a real fear in the marketplace, Grazer said. Default notices are piling up for retailers unable to pay rent. Yeah, and of course, Silicon Valley is jumping in on this bandwagon, trying to consolidate as much of its power to work in conjunction with the government. But that's for another video. I've already reached the 25-minute mark here, just reading through this article and commenting on it. I'd encourage you all to go read the article and all the articles that it's linked to and make up your own minds. Thanks so much for listening. Wish I had the time to make this more organized, but this is what I got for today, and I appreciate all of y'all. My main website is racklitjournal.com, where you'll find stories, ideas, and more. Cheers. If I can find the off button. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.